A while, and I apologize, but I needed to take a break, mainly because work was really overwhelming and I needed to just get my bearing with my main job. So I apologize for, the absence. I apologize for not being able to do your reading for the past couple of months. I believe it was 5 months. So I'm really, really sorry, and I'm so glad that you guys are still around watching this video. So, let me just go through the process here. When I was shuffling out this spread, I saw a moving reel. Okay, so I'm gonna explain that a little bit. What I saw was there's this vehicle. It's going down a country road. um, it looks like it might be in a more temperate climate because you still see grass and trees and things like that in the driver's seat or in the front seat. And then there's a little girl. She's in the back seat and she's by herself, and she has the window rolled down and she's looking out at the landscape. And what she sees is it's a very deserted, empty road, and it's not inhabited. So all she sees passing, through her view is just, shrubs and trees and power lines. Okay, like the power lines, and then a pole, and then more power lines. So what I'm seeing is she's looking out the window, and it's just, there isn't a lot of like variation when it comes to terrain, landscape, monuments, and things like that. She's just seeing the same repetitive things, the poles, the power line, the shrubs, and the trees in the background, just recurring over and over and over and over again. And so when I was seeing this, some of the words that really jumped out was a situation where there's a lot of patterns and repetitions, okay? A situation where I feel almost like if you're the little girl, okay, no matter what gender you are, if you're a Gemini watching this, you might be the little girl where a certain aspect of your life, you just feel like you don't have that sense of free will or that sense of agency to change things. Because once again, you're in the back seat, someone else is, taking control of the vehicle. And so what I'm seeing here is this sense of, for some of you, being swept along, feeling almost like you're being swept along with events, with things, with circumstances, and you're not, really putting your foot down and change the course, pretty much. So that's what I'm sensing. And then I'm also seeing for many of you, it's almost like a contemplative period. It's kind of like the aftermath of a situation where you have some time to kind of mull things over, to think about things, or to, just kind of like watch everything kind of pass you by. Okay, it's a moment of like repose. And so those were the key words that came out. And I want to go back to the whole concept of patterns and repetition, because I feel like there is a situation here where life has been kind of like at a standstill, okay? I almost feel like you're going through the motions. You're getting things done. You're doing what is expected of you. And once again, you're kind of like um, not so much like pandering to, but more like doing what's expected of you, going with the course of the course of events that have already been put into motion. Okay, and so you're managing, or you're trying your best to, keep afloat. And I feel like for some of you, in some instances, there could be like a lot of work piling on you, a lot of responsibilities that you have to take care of in a certain areas of your life. And I feel like it's work, family as well. And so you feel a little bit tied and tethered, okay? This is the Hangman, and this is a card about, being stuck in a situation. I also feel like not wanting to go against the crowd, okay? Not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting to like swim upstream. This is a card about, taking the path of least resistance. It's uncomfortable, but it doesn't upset a lot of people. So I feel like you're in a situation where I feel that you are doing what you feel others expect from you. And I also feel for many of you, it's also shouldering the burden, okay? Doing what's expected of you, shouldering the burden, and being in a situation where you don't want to upset other people, where you don't want to go against the tide, pretty much. And because of this, I'm seeing the whole patterns and repetition. Because we don't do what's expected of us, or because we don't want to upset other people in the process of doing something that we feel is the right path for us, we can also be swept up in this patterns and repetition where we feel like that lack of human agency of making decisions, taking control of our own lives, being the driver, being in the driver's seat where you can steer the vehicle in whatever path and through whatever, road or route that you choose to take. So there's a lot here about needing to kind of step up, needing to put your foot down, needing to be very, very firm, and needing to figure out which direction am I headed and how can I steer my path in that direction. There's a lot of we have here the Seven of Cups, and this is sort of like mulling over all the options that are in front of you, okay? If you can look at this card, I mean, he's looking at all the different offers that are in the cups. And this is a card about, being a little bit more like daydreamy, dreaming about what could be, dreaming about like the life that you want to have, the career that you want to have, the ability to travel, the ability to move about. Because Gemini people love to be able to travel, to see new things, to report back and tell others about all the new sights and all the new adventures. And I feel like this is stuck in the mental realm where you're thinking about it, you're conjuring it up, and you're living through that mental space where you're thinking like what life could be like. But the reality of the situation here is we have a deep meditative state where these offers are definitely, being presented to you, but you're thinking about that one elusive offer that's going to be on its way in. And the stereotypical Gemini always thinks about, the grass being greener. Some of you, with that courage or with that a lot more fire in your chart, you might physically go out there and seek greener pastures. But I'm seeing I'm dealing with Gemini people that might have, heavy water influence, heavy earth influence, where you feel a little bit tethered and stuck to like earthly responsibilities. Five of Pentacles. This is all the responsibilities that you have to take care of. You feel tied to it, you feel tethered, and you feel like you're not in a position where you're free to take up any of these offers or manifest these things and make it a reality. Or even if the offer comes into the picture, it's fun to, fantasize over it. But when the offer is physically right in front of you, I just feel like you cycle through that, grass is always greener mentality where you're just like, well, this offer is okay, but I'm waiting for the best offer. And so in the process of waiting for that best offer that might or might not materialize, you might pass up on other things, okay? So I feel like there was a situation here where things were being thought about, things were being fantasized about, things were being, I feel like experience more in the mental space, and it never really materialized, and because you lived it in the mental space, you just think about all the risk associated with it. You just think about it's almost like the offer was there, but in the process of thinking about how it could be, you might have scared yourself into acting on it. You might have scared yourself into, not taking that offer when it came in. Does that make sense? So I'm seeing here things were thought about, but the concrete actions were not taken in some way. And then I also feel like there was a situation here where you felt financially tied to a situation, and you might not even want to be in that situation anymore, because the Four of Cups is about boredom. Okay, and then when like an air sign such as yourself have to escape into your mind, in the realm of the mind, in order to live out some alternate reality or some alternate fantasy, that's when you know that physically the situation that you're in might not be exciting, might not be enough for you anymore. And that's why you're retreating into the more mental, emotional space in order to live out like this fantasy in a safer or in a more like fantastical environment. So I'm definitely seeing this here, and this might be something that have come in, has been wasted, and I'm also seeing a missed opportunity where you molded over, you took your time, and you stood there and waited, and I felt like something slipped you by. There's definitely an offer on the table here for something to be built upon, for something really, really great. And then I also feel like for many of you, when this offer came into the picture, for whatever reason, you felt like it wasn't good enough. You felt like it wasn't enough. You felt like it wasn't life-changing. It wasn't fantastical the way that you envision it in your mind. And so you might have inadvertently, turned your back on this offer. And I feel like it was very solid. It has the potential to go the distance, and it has like the potential to be built upon, to be nourished and cared for, and then it would really blossom. And it has like a lot of income generating potential as well. And for whatever reason, this situation, regain control. Step back in that driver's seat. Don't let these things, cycles and patterns and repetitions, don't let them repeat, because as you will see further down, see that a lot of time, energy, resources has been wasted, but very little came out of the take action. Okay, take charge, put your foot down, and really steer your life in a different direction, because I feel like you're kind of like being swept along rather than being the driver in your own life, okay? So that is pretty much what I'm picking up here with the first four cards. And so moving forward, what we have here, you're ending out with the month with a little bit more of a spiritual advice, and it's an advice to kind of like it's like a forewarning. Okay, so what we have here is the Two of Cups and the Lovers. The Two of Cups, so both of these are, like love cards, okay? Both of these cards denote like a connection, like an emotional connection that you have with another person. One is very, very stable. So we have here the Two of Cups. This is friendship, camaraderie. Two people that, even if you haven't spoken to one another in a really, really long time, you can still pick up where you left off. 5 years, since the last encounter, you can pick up where you left off. 10 years since the last encounter, things just flow. Communication is really, um, it's really easy between the two of you. And this is two people having a lot of compatibility, okay? Because the Two of Cups is like, no matter what the other person does, you forgive them. And vice versa. No matter what you do, the other person forgives you, because they innately have an emotional understanding of why you do the things that you do, because deep down, they're a lot like you, okay? So this is like a true friendship, a true love relationship where, some people say soulmate or whatever, but I feel like at its core essence, it's built on being able to like one another, okay? You can love somebody, but I feel like this is a card that denotes true compatibility, where you really like the other person, you want them to do well, okay? And then in opposition to that, we have here the Lovers. And this is a card that indicates a lot of like chemistry, a lot of physical passion that we have for another person. But what we see depicted in this card is like the feminine and the masculine energies, where they're complementary, but they're not always compatible. So it's a situation where I feel like there might have been third party interfering in the relationship. There might have been, other people on the outskirts of the relationship either disapproving it, or, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many family members, too many outside elements affecting the compatibility and the stability and the tranquility in this union right here. And I feel what's happening here is, for some of you Gemini, we, for most of us, actually, not just you Geminis, for most of us, we need both in order to feel really alive in a relationship, right? We need that compatibility to know that the other person is going to be there even when they're mad at us, okay? And then we also need this raw, unbridled passion in order to feel alive, in order to feel that sense of excitement in a relationship. So we kind of need both. And I feel like there's a situation here where you're getting one but not the other. Okay? And I feel like you might be seeking a little bit more excitement, or some of you could be seeking a little bit more stability. So you're getting one of these things in your relationship, but you're not getting the other. So whatever it is that's lacking, that's what you're really thinking about. That's what you're really mulling over. And that's why it's really hard to truly, choose among all the options, because you want that all encompassing, you want the total package. You want somebody who embodies this and this. And I feel like if you are in a situation where the relationship is lacking one of those things, whatever that might be, that you deem you need in that relationship, if you are in a partnership or if you are in a relationship with another person, I feel like your partner is feeling that too. Okay? And what I have here is we have the High Priestess. This is somebody who works on intuition. Okay? So this is someone who, like, they can walk into a room and they can feel the undercurrents. They can feel the tension, they can feel the love, they can feel whatever energies that are inherent in that room, between the interaction between the people in that room. They feel it. And then this is someone who's so intuitive that when they're interacting with you, if they're picking up boredom, or if you're emitting, signs of boredom, they're going to know. If you're emitting signs of dissatisfaction, they're going to know. And if you're emitting signs that, like, you're either spaced out or daydreamy, or, you're not 100% committed to it, I feel like they will know. And so you're dealing with someone like this, where energetically they pick up what you pick up, or I'm sorry, what you would emit on a subconscious level. So you might not be doing it on purpose, but I definitely feel like there is a situation here where the partner is picking it up. The word that I'm getting from this card here is about, there's a connection here where, and I'm just going to raise this up. We have here the Two of Cups. This is a really good spiritual connection, because I feel like, the two people really, really care about each other. Okay? They're very much alike. It's like a mirror splitting image. And if you were a little bit more prone to looking for excitement rather than compatibility, it's going to be a little bit more grounding for you, because from this card, what I'm getting is you're starting to see the value in this person, in this connection. You're starting to see how much alike the two of you are. Okay? It's like peas in the pod. And you're starting to revere, or you're starting to have a lot more respect for this person. It's not that the respect wasn't there. I just feel like a lot of things get bogged down, or gets like slammed on top of this relationship, so you're not able to see it for what it is. But coming into the month of October, I feel like you're going to hold this person on a pedestal, and there is, reconciliation and making amends and things like that coming into this picture, because you're going to start to see the energy of the Two of Cups protruding. And this is sort of like, even if the other person drives you nuts, you still forgive them. And even if you drive them nuts, they will still forgive you. And you're going to start to see that that's what compatibility truly is about. Okay? And then on the other hand, I'm also sensing for many of you putting an end to third-party situation. We have here the Lovers, which is, like I mentioned, the interference earlier, and the Ten of Swords. And the Ten of Swords is a situation where it has to happen. And unfortunately, it's a situation that's not, it is not easy to recover from. And because it's not easy to recover from, it has to happen so that we can realize its finality. And I feel like this is across all signs, okay? We're all guilty of this. We always think about what ifs, what ifs, what ifs in relationships or in a situation. Like, if I hung on a little bit longer, if I stayed on, if I tried a little bit harder, and if I had done things differently. And so we always cycle through, we always think about the what ifs, and especially for you guys, the air signs, constantly think about, alternate realities, constantly think about, an alternate timelines, and especially thinking about, if I had done this, the outcome would have been different. And it's really difficult to figure out, that counterfactual. If that had happened, how things would have been. And since we don't live with that counterfactual, since the choices were made differently, we are always going to be stuck in that revolving door, thinking like, should I go back to it? Should I try to fix it? If I had done this, the other person would have done something else, and then the situation would have been different. But we don't know the outcome of that different scenario because we're not living in that timeline. And so what I'm seeing here is there's a situation here. It had to end, and it had to end in a way where definitively you can tell yourself it wasn't meant to be because it ended this way. And I'm feeling for many of you, there might have been like a really strong connection with you and another person where you both were just not very compatible for each other. And compatibility, opposites attract. So compatibility, lack of compatibility is not always a deal breaker in a relationship. But lack of compatibility when two people are too stubborn, too, I feel like too proud to kind of let their guard down, be vulnerable with one another, and to kind of agree on a common plan. That's where things can get a little bit dicey, and that's where I feel like there's a situation here where there's a lot, too much has been said, okay? The sword energy rules communication, and you have this kind of spooky figure in the back, okay? It's like daggers in the back, feeling like somebody has really done something that you can't really forgive them for, or that can't really be gone back to and fixed, okay? So it's a situation where you're not going to be wondering what ifs anymore. I feel like, it's kind of like that last nail in the coffin, where too much has been done, too much has been said, and you really can't, reconcile or recover from it. And then I also feel there is a reconciliation here with a situation that where there's a lot more more compatibility, where there's a lot more consideration for one another. And when that happens, I feel like you're going to start to revere this a lot more. You're going to start to see the value in this person or this situation, and you're going to start to, I want to say, make you feel you're regaining that sense of agency, being the driver's seat in your own life, steering the vehicle in whatever direction you feel is better suited for you, and making some really strong, important, and major decisions here when it comes to your emotional stability, okay? And, choosing who you choose to spend your time with, who you are devoting your resources and your energy to, and who is facilitating and making the voyage easier for you. So you're really coming into your own sense of what's very important to you. And I feel like, the path of least resistance in this card. Then I'm also feeling being able to cleanly sever ties with people that might not have been good for you. Being able to say that, to see the situation for what it is, okay? It's like two people when they're working well together, they can like have dominion over their environment. Okay, this is like a kingdom. Okay, so it's like ruling over all the animals, and at the risk of sounding very biblical, I feel like it's dominion over the earth, over their environment, and that's because they're working together to procreate or co-create some type of a harmonious environment. When it's working at its best, this relationship can be very exalted. But when it's working at its worst, it's lack of compatibility, lack of common vision, lack of common ideals, lack of common goals and aspirations. And so what I'm sensing here is just because it's incompatible doesn't mean that it's doomed from the start. It just requires a lot of growth, a lot of maturation, a lot of seeing, forcing yourself to kind of like see the other person's perspective, and understanding where they're coming from and why they behave or why they make the decisions that they do. And I feel because of that, it requires us to kind of like step outside of our shoes and slip into someone else's shoes to kind of like understand what they have been through. And I feel like this process might also be very, very uncomfortable because you're dealing with someone who might be very opposite from you. You're dealing with someone who might be very different from you culturally, linguistically, I feel for some of you, and just, in a different body, in a different life. And so it's really, really hard to figure out where they're coming from and why they behave the way that they do. But either where you're clinging on to and you're realizing what's very important to you, you're in a situation where you're not putting yourself in circumstances where people can make you really doubt your capabilities, because I feel like there's a huge uptick here when it comes to being able to follow through with things that you have laid out for yourself. I feel like there might have been a situation here, especially for some of you, like schooling, training, or something like that, because the Page of Pentacles is it's like a student. Okay, so this is like some type of a training course, some type of on the job training, some type of schooling. For some of you, you might have had too many distractions. Okay, too many books, too many events, too many things happening in your life, and you couldn't adequately devote the time to get the schooling underway. And you kind of beat yourself up over it because air signs pride themselves on being very intelligent and very smart. To be able to churn out an essay, burning the midnight oil to turn out essays. Okay, so like doing it at the last minute, cramming for exams and still getting a really good grade on the exam. So you pride yourself on this, and I feel like there might have been times where you were saved by this, but for whatever reason there were so many responsibilities imposed upon you recently, too many distractions too, lack of ability to focus and get things done. And it left you in a space where you're just like, I wish I had done things differently. I wished I had taken things more seriously. And now you're realizing this was a lesson that you had to learn. To take things a little bit, more seriously, to be not less lighthearted, because that sounds negative. But what I mean is, some things are meant to be worked at very, very diligently. And so I feel like you're, no longer distracted. You're buckling down and studying, and it might be quite boring, but I feel like you're starting to see the end goal, and you're starting to see as well, hard work really pays off. We're going from the Five of Pentacles. This is a situation where there's regrets, okay? Into the Nine of Pentacles. This is self-sufficiency, having mastery either over your work, over this training environment, over the schooling environment, foregoing, short-term pleasures for long-term gains so that you can achieve and gain something that is tangible and valuable and will sustain or will, stand the test of time. So I definitely see some sacrifices having to be made from your end in order to achieve like long-term stability. And so Geminis, I feel like, the energy for this month, it's about you needing to, I'm almost hearing like no more excuses. We need to buckle down. We need to do this, and we need to do this right. We don't want to repeat cycles from the last time, okay? So there's a lot here about patterns and repetition, recognizing those patterns and not letting those patterns repeat. And then I'm also seeing, the taking control, like being in the driver's seat, taking back control, understanding what is not good for us, and choosing to kind of like making conscious decision. And these two cards, I switched the order. This is about spiritual growth, making decisions for more of this spiritual enlightened space rather than succumbing to this, okay, where there's a lot of chemistry, there's a lot of excitement, but at the end of the day, I feel like it can like feel a little bit like an emotional roller coaster, and then you end up very, very depleted, okay? And you're not going to be functioning at your best. So moderation is the extreme key here, but I also feel the most important thing is, not letting patterns and cycles repeat, all right? So thanks for sticking with me, and if you are interested in a reading, there is a colleague that I have seen in the past. Her name is Bridget. She's a psychic. She is phenomenal. I highly recommend that you get a reading from her. She's in the California area, so if you're ever in the area, I've included the link in the description box below for her contact information as well as her scheduling website. So if you're interested in a reading for yourself or for someone you know, please book a reading with her, all right? Take care of yourself, Geminis.